students, welcome back. Today we shall study a new chapter named Bholi, written by Khwaja Ahmad Abbas. This chapter is about the transformation of a young timid girl into a bold young woman capable of taking her own decisions. So let's start with the introduction of the author. Khwaja Ahmad Abbas was born on 7th June 1914 in Panipat, and he died on 1st June 1987 in Mumbai. He was an Indian film director, screenwriter, novelist and a journalist in Urdu, Hindi and English languages. He wrote 74 books, 90 short stories, 3,000 journalistic articles, 40 films and some plays. He was known for dealing with nationalistic themes and socially conscious issues in his movies. He won National Film Award and also awarded the Padma Shri by the Indian government in 1969. Theme of the chapter. First one is discrimination against the girl child. The chapter Bholi throws up many instances like Ramlal's sons go to school and college. His daughters are not educated, but he wants to get relieved of his burden by marrying them off. Bholi's mother does not even think it necessary to take Bholi's consent for her marriage. The groom is old and lame. Still he demands dowry. After making several requests, Bholi's father is ready to pay him the desired sum also. It is the girl herself who has to raise her voice against the marriage, and she is also criticized and humiliated for standing up for her dignity, but she is firm and decides the course of her life. Next is, society does not tolerate difference very easily. Bholi is not like others. She is slow for her age. Bholi has weak mind due to an accidental fall from her cot during her infancy. She stammers when she speaks, and her body is covered with pock marks. As a result, she has to suffer a lot. Not only the society, but even her family does not support her. She is not even bathed or given tidy clothes to wear. She is ignored, neglected, and treated as a burden. So, the chapter teaches us that we must not mock the disabilities of children who are disabled. Rather than, we should give them hope that they can be as good as the other children by motivating and uplifting them. Students, now let me introduce you to the characters of the story. First one is Bholi. Bholi was Ramlal's youngest daughter. When she was 10 months old, she fell down from the cot and a part of her brain was damaged. So she remained a backward child. Her face was permanently disfigured by pock marks when she was 2 years old. She began to speak at the age of 5 years, but she stammered. She was a neglected child. No one cared for her. They called her a witless fool. Other children mimicked her and laughed at her. But when she was sent to school, her life totally changed. Her teacher was kind and sympathetic. She encouraged and inspired her to rise higher in life. The teacher gave her confidence and she made her speak without a stammer. She became a learned girl and refused to marry a mean and a greedy man. Later, she decided to serve her old parents and her village by teaching other girls. Next in line is Ramlal. Ramlal was the Numbardar of his village. He had a respectable position in the village. He had 4 daughters and 3 sons. He was a loving father. He sent his sons to the city for education, and he searched for good bridegrooms for his 3 daughters. He was worried about his youngest daughter Bholi. he took her to school and he asked his wife to bathe Bholi and give her clean clothes. He did not want to marry Bholi with Bishambar, who was almost of his age. He wanted to consult Bholi in this matter, but it seems that he was in his wife's influence. Even in the end, he parted with 5,000 rupees for the sake of Bholi's happiness. Thus, he was a good father. Ramlal's wife was an uneducated woman with traditional values. She was not a good mother to her daughters. She thought that the earlier the daughters are married, the better it is. She was opposed to educating her daughters. She also did not look for aptness of the boy while marrying off her daughters. Bholi's teacher. She was kind and understanding. She had all the knowledge and maturity that are hallmarks of her profession. She knew how to treat kids with special needs. On the very first day of Bholi's school, her soft and soothing voice comforted Bholi. She motivated Bholi by saying that she will become the most learned person in her village. In the end, when Bholi stood up against injustice, her teacher was satisfied that she had completed a masterpiece without an error. Bishambar Nath. He was a middle-aged man. He was nearly as old as Bholi's father. He limped while walking. He had grown-up children from his first wife. He had a big house, a shop, and lot of money in the bank. He agreed to marry Bholi without demanding dowry. But when he came to marry her, he asked for 5,000 rupees to marry Bholi after seeing pockmarks on her face. But later, Bholi refused to marry such a greedy and mean person. Now let's start the explanation of the chapter. From her very childhood, Sulekha, also known as Bholi, was a little slow. She was the fourth daughter and seventh and youngest child of Numbardar Ramlal. When she was 10 months old, she had fallen from her cot on her head. This had perhaps damaged some part of her brain, and she was therefore a backward child. Also, when she was 2 years old, she had an attack of smallpox. Only her eyes were saved. Her entire body was permanently disfigured by deep black pockmarks. She could not speak until she was 5, and then also she stammered when she spoke. The other children made fun of her. Therefore, she spoke very little. Ramlal had 7 children, 3 sons and 4 daughters. Bholi was the youngest one. There was plenty to eat and drink because it was a prosperous family. Every child was healthy except Bholi. The sons were sent to study in the city and Radha was already married, while Mangla's marriage had been fixed. The third one was Champa. All the girls except Bholi were good looking and healthy. So there was no difficulty in marrying them. Ramlal was worried about Bholi because she had neither good looks nor intelligence. When Bholi was 7 years of age, then a primary school opened in their village. The Tehsildar came to play out the opening service of the school. He revealed to Ramlal that as a revenue official and as a representative of the village, he ought to send his little girl to the school and set an example before the villagers. When he counseled his wife about the issue, his wife did not agree with him. However, then she chooses to send Bholi to the school. The following day, Bholi was given a bath and another dress to wear. She was taken to school by her dad. When she reached school, she sat in a corner in the class. At the point when her teacher asked her name, she started stammering and kids began laughing. At this, Bholi began sobbing, but the teacher's voice was delicate and mitigating. It empowered her to a considerable measure. Lastly, she could speak to her full name. That moment, the teacher disclosed to her if she would come day by day to class, she would talk without a stammer. And one day, she would turn into the most educated young lady in the village. Then, nobody will set out to snicker at her. At that point, they will hear her out deliberately. Many years passed. The village became a small town. One night, after dinner, Ramlal asked his wife if he should accept Bishambar's proposal for marriage with Bholi. Bishambar was a rich grocer from another village, but he was as old as Ramlal. He also walked with a limp, and the children from his first wife were quite grown up. Bholi's mother was not deterred by these facts. She only wanted to see Bholi married and therefore asked Ramlal to accept the proposal. Bholi was not asked anything, and neither did she say anything. Bishambar Nath came with a big marriage party with pomp and show. When the auspicious moment came, Bholi was led to the bride's place near the sacred fire. When the bridegroom was about to garland the bride, a woman slipped back the silken veil from the bride's face. Bishambar took a quick glance. He saw the pock marks on the face of Bholi, and he was shocked to see them. Bishambar immediately stopped everything and said that if he was to marry Bholi, her father must give him 5,000 rupees. Ramlal pleaded with him and asked him to accept a smaller amount, but Bishambar was unmoved. At last, Ramlal gave him the money for his honor. When Bishambar was about to garland the bride, Bholi unveiled her face and her hand struck out like a streak of lightning, and the garland was flung into the sacred fire. She asked her father in a clear and loud voice to take back the money. She refused to marry the man who was mean and greedy. Other women wondered how Bholi, a harmless dumb cow, had become so violent. Bishambar Nath and his party went back. Ramlal stood rooted to the ground, his head bowed low with grief and shame. He asked Bholi, what will they do with her? No one would marry her. Bholi told her father that she would serve them in old age. She would teach in the same school where she had learned so much about life. Her teacher also supported in her decision. Message of the story. The chapter conveys the message that little love and affection can play a huge role in transforming one's life. So family support and emotional security are essential for proper child development. The chapter highlights that disabled children must be given proper encouragement and love like normal ones. And lastly, the chapter highlights the importance of education for the girls. As we can see from the chapter itself, that earlier Bholi was like a dumb cow, but education made her a woman of substance. So students, we have completed the chapter Bholi, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Thank you so much.